Coffee, Cupid, and a Case of Mistaken Identity. A short, clean, no-spice, cozy romance story with a coffee shop meet-cute by Lainey Evans. Take a break and enjoy this peek into Emma and Zach's first meeting. This story is copyright August 2025 by Lainey Evans and published by Honey Ridge Tales. All rights reserved. No part of this recording may be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted in any form without the prior written permission of the author. This work of fiction is the product of the author's imagination. If you enjoy this story, please check out my channel for more short stories and full-length audiobooks. Click subscribe to not miss any future stories, and click like to let me know this story hit the mark. Links to my social media and website can be found in the description below. Let's begin our story. Emma. Emma Morgan arrived at Brood Awakening 15 minutes early. A strategic decision she'd made after one too many awkward dating app experiences. The dating app had been her roommate Liv's idea.
Small town, small dating pool.
Liv had insisted, downloading it onto Emma's phone despite her protests. After scrolling through profiles, she'd matched with an elementary school music teacher named Dylan, who liked dogs, hiking, and classic rock. His profile picture was a bit obscured with a side view of him and a dog running a trail in the woods, but she assumed he wasn't too hip on dating apps either. His messages had been well written, and he'd suggested meeting for coffee rather than drinks, both promising signs. "Look for the dark-haired guy in the red flannel shirt," he'd messaged last night. The coffee shop hummed with Saturday morning energy. College students hunched over laptops, couples sharing pastries and conversation, and the comforting hiss of the espresso machine punctuating it all. "It's just coffee," she whispered to herself, adjusting the blue sweater she'd finally chosen after 3 wardrobe changes. 1 hour of your life. If he's awful, you never have to see him again. The scent of freshly ground coffee beans and warm pastries enveloped her as she scanned the room. Brood Awakening was half coffee shop, half used bookstore, with mismatched armchairs and bookshelves lining the back wall. Morning sunlight streamed through the windows, warming the worn wooden floors. And there, at a table near the window, sat a man in a red flannel shirt, hunched over a book, a steaming mug at his elbow. Her date was early, too. Points for that. Emma approached his table. "Dylan?" she asked, her voice coming out higher than intended. The man looked up, and Emma's breath caught. He was ruggedly handsome, with kind brown eyes, dark hair that curled slightly at his temples, and a jawline shadowed with stubble. The red flannel shirt stretched across broad shoulders, sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe? Before he smiled, revealing a dimple in his left cheek.
"Hey,"
he said, closing his book.
"You must be?"
"It's me, Emma," she said at the same time, cutting him off. She slid into the chair across from him, mentally chiding herself for being too eager. "I hope you haven't been waiting long."
"Not at all."
He marked his place with a receipt and set the book aside. It was a dog-eared paperback copy of Neil Gaiman's The Ocean at the End of the Lane. "Oh, I love that book," Emma said, nodding toward it. His eyes lit up.
"You've read it?"
3 times. I think it's one of the only books that makes loneliness feel almost magical. Like even when you're alone, you're not really. He went still for a moment, then ran a hand through his hair, a smile tugging at his mouth.
"That's exactly it. I'm rereading it for probably the 5th time. It's my comfort book."
Emma relaxed a fraction. A man who really read, not just claimed to on his dating profile, was a good sign.
"Can I get you something to drink?"
he asked, gesturing toward the counter. A vanilla latte would be great. As he walked to the counter, Emma took the opportunity to send a quick text to Liv. "He's cute and he reads. Might not be a disaster after all." When he returned with her latte, Emma smiled at the foam heart on top. "Thank you. This looks perfect." He settled back into his chair.
"So Emma, tell me something I don't know about you."
Emma wrapped her hands around the warm mug. "Well, let's see. I have an unreasonable fear of geese. I once ate an entire pint of ice cream during a single episode of the Great British Bake Off. And I can recite all the presidents in order, but only if I sing it to the tune of Yankee Doodle. He laughed, a warm, rich sound that made her smile.
I'd like to hear that sometime.
Your turn, she said, taking a sip of her latte. He tapped his fingers against his mug.
I sleepwalk occasionally, nothing dramatic, mostly just rearranging things in the kitchen. I once woke up to find all my cereal boxes alphabetized.
Emma laughed. Productive sleepwalking. I'm impressed,
It's a gift.
he said with a wry smile.
Also, I have a dog named Fitzgerald, Fitz for short, who I absolutely spoil rotten.
Emma perked up, remembering his profile picture. What kind?
He's a rescue mutt.
He pulled out his phone and showed her a photo of a shaggy black and tan dog with one ear that stood straight up and another that flopped over, wearing a bandana that read, "I'm silently judging your book choices." Oh my gosh, he's adorable, Emma said, realizing the dog in the profile picture looked different, but maybe it was an older picture with a dog he'd had previously. I love his bandana. Where did you get it?
I made it, actually. I have a small side business making pet accessories.
Emma looked up, surprised. Seriously? That's really cool. He shrugged, but looked pleased.
It started as a way to cope after my divorce. Just something to keep my hands busy.
Wait, you were married? Emma asked, trying to remember if his profile had mentioned that. A shadow crossed his face.
Yeah, for 6 years. We split up about 2 years ago.
I'm sorry, Emma said, then winced. I mean, I'm sorry if it was painful. Not sorry that you're single now. I mean, I'm not happy you're single, but obviously, if you weren't single, you wouldn't be here with me, and... She stopped herself, feeling her cheeks flush. And I'm going to stop talking now. He laughed again, his eyes crinkling at the corners.
I know what you meant. What about you? Any dramatic relationship history?
Emma shook her head. Nothing too dramatic. A few relationships that fizzled out. She traced the rim of her mug with her finger. I guess I haven't found my person yet.
Your person?
You know, that one person who gets you completely, who sees all your quirks and neuroses and thinks you're charming instead of annoying? She suddenly felt self-conscious. Sorry, that sounds cheesy,
No, it doesn't.
he said softly.
I think everyone wants that.
Their eyes met across the table, and Emma felt a flutter of hope one more time. The moment was broken by the arrival of a server with a plate of muffins.
Complimentary sample of our new pumpkin chocolate chip muffin.
She said, setting them down. They fell into easy conversation after that, discovering they shared a love of old bookstores, British murder mysteries, and terrible sci-fi movies. He was funny in a quiet way, with a dry wit that caught her off guard and made her laugh. And he listened when she talked, asking follow-up questions and remembering details. Not like her previous dates who only pretended to listen, but instead talked incessantly about themselves and probably counting down the minutes until they could leave. Emma was in the middle of telling him about the time she'd accidentally set off the fire alarm at the library where she worked when the bell above the door jingled. Emma glanced up out of habit, then did a double take. A man in a red flannel shirt had just walked in, scanning the room with a slightly confused expression. He was conventionally attractive in a bland sort of way, with carefully styled dark hair and the kind of tan that came from a bottle rather than the sun. The newcomer's eyes landed on her table, and his face brightened with recognition. He walked toward them.
Emma?
He asked, stopping at their table.
Emma Morgan?
Emma stared at him, confusion washing over her. Yes,
I'm Dylan.
he said, holding out his hand.
Dylan Whitaker. From Meet Cute?
Emma's brain short-circuited. She looked from the man standing next to the table to the man sitting across from her, who was now looking decidedly uncomfortable. But, she started, then stopped, realization dawning with horrifying clarity. She turned to the man she'd been talking to for the past half hour. "You're not Dylan." He grimaced, rubbing the back of his neck.
No, I'm not. I'm Zach. Zach Bennett.
Emma's face burned hot enough to melt steel. "But I asked if you were Dylan, and you said—"
I didn't actually confirm that.
Zach said apologetically.
You called me Dylan, and I just said, hey. Then you said your name like you were reminding me who you are. I thought maybe you knew me from somewhere and just got my name wrong.
"But then why did you—" Emma gestured helplessly at the table, the coffee, the entire situation. Zach's ears had turned pink.
You seemed so nice, and we were having such a good conversation. I was going to tell you after a few minutes, but then we started talking about books, and...
He trailed off, looking genuinely remorseful.
I'm really sorry, that was weird of me.
Dylan was still standing there, looking between them with growing annoyance.
What's going on here?
Emma wanted a hole in the ground to open up and swallow her. "I'm so sorry," she said to Dylan. "There was a misunderstanding. I saw him—" She pointed at Zach, wearing a red flannel shirt, with dark hair and sitting alone, and I thought he was you. Your profile picture isn't exactly the best for recognizing you in real life." Dylan frowned.
So you've been here with some random guy instead of, actually looking for me?
His tone, along with being late and not texting her to let her know, made Emma's embarrassment recede slightly, replaced by a flicker of irritation. "I thought I had found you," she said. "You said to look for a guy in a red flannel shirt."
Well, yeah, but
Dylan looked Zach up and down dismissively.
I mean, come on.
Zach. Zach Bennett's morning had been pleasantly uneventful until the pretty woman in the blue sweater called him Dylan and sat down at his table. In the split second before he could correct her, she'd smiled at him, and his brain had temporarily short-circuited. By the time he'd gathered his wits enough to explain the misunderstanding, they were already deep in conversation about the ocean at the end of the lane, and she'd made that adorable comment about her fear of geese. And, well, he'd just kept talking, telling himself he'd clear things up in a moment, until half an hour had passed and he was thoroughly enchanted. Now, watching her mortified expression as the real Dylan stood impatiently beside their table, Zach succumbed to an overwhelming wave of guilt. "I think I should go," Zach said quietly, standing up. "Emma, it was really nice meeting you. Misunderstanding and all. I hope your actual date goes well." He gathered his book and his jacket before turning to the newcomer. "Dylan, she's lovely. You're lucky." With a final apologetic smile at Emma, Zach walked away, settling at a table on the other side of the room. His coffee had gone cold, but he pretended to sip it anyway, trying not to obviously eavesdrop on the conversation unfolding at his former table. Emma looked diminished somehow, her earlier animation replaced by a polite mask as Dylan took the seat Zach had vacated. The real Dylan was talking animatedly, gesturing with his hands, while Emma nodded occasionally. Real smooth, Bennett, Zach thought, opening his book without seeing the words. Way to make a first impression. The irony wasn't lost on him. 2 years post-divorce, and the first woman who'd sparked his interest in ages had mistaken him for someone else. Someone she'd deliberately chosen to meet, unlike him. He was debating whether to order another coffee or just leave when he caught snippets of raised voices from across the room. He looked up to see Dylan gesturing emphatically, his face flushed with annoyance. Emma was sitting very still, her hands folded in her lap, her expression carefully neutral. Zach watched as Emma said something brief and decisive. Dylan's face darkened. He stood up abruptly, said something else, then stormed out of the coffee shop, the bell jangling in his wake. Emma remained at the table, her shoulders slumping slightly. She ran a hand through her hair, then straightened and took a deep breath. Even from across the room, Zach saw the moment she gathered herself, pushing away whatever emotions the encounter had stirred up. She looked around the coffee shop, her gaze eventually landing on him. Zach quickly looked down at his book, pretending he hadn't been watching the whole scene unfold. But from the corner of his eye, he saw her stand up and start walking toward him.
So,
Emma said, stopping at his table.
that went well.
Zach looked up. Her smile was a bit forlorn, her cheeks still flushed.
Do you mind if I sit?
She asked, gesturing to the chair across from him. Please, Zach said, closing his book and setting it aside. Though I'm not sure why you'd want to after I basically catfished you in person. Emma laughed, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly.
I wouldn't call it catfishing. More like case of mistaken identity that you didn't correct as promptly as social norms would dictate.
When you put it that way, it sounds almost reasonable, Zach said, smiling despite himself.
Almost.
Emma agreed. She fidgeted with the sleeve of her sweater.
Look, I'm sorry about earlier. I shouldn't have assumed you were my date just because you were wearing a red flannel shirt.
You don't need to apologize. I'm the one who should be sorry, and I am, really sorry.
Let's just agree we both contributed to the comedy of errors, though I maintain that my initial mistake was more understandable than your extended failure to correct it.
Fair enough, Zach conceded, though in my defense you're very easy to talk to. A pleased smile flickered across her face.
Thank you. So are you.
So, Zach said, I couldn't help but notice that your date with the real Dylan seemed to end abruptly. Emma grimaced.
Yeah, that didn't exactly go as planned.
Do you want to talk about it? Or would you rather pretend none of this ever happened and go our separate ways, possibly changing coffee shops to avoid the awkwardness of running into each other again?
That seems a bit extreme, especially since this is the only decent coffee shop in town.
She sighed.
Dylan was not what his profile suggested?
What happened, if you don't mind me asking? Emma twisted a strand of hair around her finger.
Well, after you left, he spent 10 minutes telling me about his CrossFit routine and his protein shake regimen. Then he asked if I'd considered trying intermittent fasting because, and I quote, it would really help with toning.
Zach winced. Ouch.
Yeah. Then, when I mentioned I work at the library, he said, and again I quote, that's cool, I guess, if you're into books and stuff, as if he hadn't listed reading as one of his hobbies on his profile.
Clearly a man of culture.
The final straw was when he started explaining the plot of Pride and Prejudice to me, incorrectly, I might add, after I mentioned it was one of my favorite books.
Emma's eyes flashed with indignation.
He called Mr. Darcy that rich dude with the social anxiety.
Zach laughed. Well, he's not entirely wrong. Emma shot him a look of mock outrage.
Don't you dare defend him!
I wouldn't dream of it, Zach said, holding up his hands in surrender. So what happened next?
I told him I didn't think we were a good match and thanked him for the coffee he never actually bought me. He didn't take it well, said I was missing out on a great opportunity, and that I shouldn't be so picky at my age.
At your age? Zach repeated incredulously. How old does he think you are?
I'm 32, which apparently is one step away from spinsterhood in Dylan's world.
Emma said, rolling her eyes.
Anyway, he left in a huff, and here we are.
Here we are. Zach agreed. He hesitated, then decided to take a risk. For what it's worth, I think Dylan is an idiot, and not just because he doesn't appreciate Pride and Prejudice. Emma's cheeks flushed slightly.
Thank you. That's nice of you to say.
A moment of silence surrounded them. He was acutely aware of the way Emma was looking at him. Her head tilted slightly, as if she was trying to figure something out.
Can I ask you something?
She said finally.
Why did you let me think you were Dylan? The real reason, Emma. Zach considered her question, his expression thoughtful. Emma held her breath, suddenly very invested in his answer.
because when you sat down and started talking to me, it was the most interesting conversation I'd had in months.
He said finally.
And I was afraid if I told you the truth right away, you'd leave.
Emma's eyes widened slightly. Oh,
I know it was selfish.
Zach continued.
And probably a little creepy. But I've been coming to this coffee shop every Saturday for months, reading my favorite books over and over, and this is the first time someone has actually talked to me about something other than the weather, or whether the seat next to me was taken. The truth is, I've been in a rut since my divorce. Work, home, occasional social obligations with my sister's family, repeat. And then you sat down and started telling me about your fear of geese and your ice cream consumption, and suddenly I didn't feel quite so stuck.
Emma stilled, watching him with an expression she hoped didn't reveal just how much his honesty had touched her.
Anyway,
Zach said, his ears turning pink again.
that's probably more than you wanted to know.
No, Emma said softly. It's not. She reached across the table and laid her hand over his, just for a moment. Her fingers tingled where they touched his skin. Thank you for being honest, she said, and for what it's worth, I'm glad I sat down at your table, even if it was a mistake. Zach's face lit up and Emma's heart pounded.
Me too.
Emma's hand tingled where it had touched Zach's. She hadn't planned on touching him. It had been an impulse, a physical manifestation of the connection she felt forming between them. A connection that, by all rights, shouldn't exist. They'd met under false pretenses, after all. She should be mortified, not intrigued. And yet, here she was, looking across the table at this man, this stranger, and feeling more at ease than she had on any planned date in recent memory. So, she said, trying to sound casual, what happens now? Zach raised an eyebrow.
What do you mean?
Well, normally, after a disastrous dating app encounter, I'd go home, tell Liv all the gory details, eat ice cream straight from the carton, and delete the app, only to reinstall it a week later when Liv convinces me to get back out there. Emma smiled ruefully. But this isn't exactly a normal situation.
No,
Zach agreed, his eyes crinkling at the corners.
it's not.
I mean, technically my date was a disaster, but the half hour before that. Emma trailed off, unsure how to articulate what she was feeling.
Was nice?
Zach suggested, a hopeful note in his voice. It was, Emma admitted. Really nice. Zach's smile widened, revealing a dimple that did strange things to Emma's pulse.
So maybe we could, I don't know, start over?
Start over?
Yeah, pretend we just met. For real this time.
He extended his hand across the table.
Hi, I'm Zach Bennett. I like dogs, old houses, and a wide variety of books, and I think you have a great smile.
Emma's cheeks warmed as she took his hand. Emma Morgan. I work at the library, have an irrational fear of geese, and think your dog's bandana is the coolest thing I've seen all week. Their handshake lingered a beat too long before Zach reluctantly let go.
It's nice to meet you, Emma Morgan. Can I buy you another coffee? Your latte's gone cold.
Emma glanced down at her forgotten drink. I'd like that. Thank you. As Zach went to the counter, Emma took a moment to text Liv. Plot twist. Wrong guy turned out to be right guy. We'll explain later. Liv's response was immediate. What? Details ASAP? Emma smiled and tucked her phone away as Zach returned with fresh drinks, another vanilla latte for her and a black coffee for himself.
So,
He said, settling back into his chair.
since we're starting over, tell me something about yourself that isn't immediately obvious.
Emma considered this. I collect vintage typewriters. I have 6 so far, all in working condition. My favorite is a 1940s Remington that I found at an estate sale.
That's actually really cool.
Zach said, sounding genuinely impressed.
Do you use them?
Sometimes. There's something satisfying about the physical act of typing on a manual typewriter, the resistance of the keys, the sound of the type bars hitting the paper, the bell at the end of each line. Emma smiled, slightly embarrassed by her enthusiasm. Sorry, that probably sounds weird,
Not at all.
Zach assured her.
I understand completely. It's like how I feel about working with my hands. Whether it's renovating my house or making Fitz's bandanas, there's a tangible quality to creating something physical that you don't get from digital work.
Exactly, Emma said, pleasantly surprised by his understanding. What about you? What's something about you that isn't immediately obvious? Zach took a sip of his coffee, considering.
I build elaborate snow forts every winter. Not for kids. I don't have any. I build them for myself. And for Fitz, of course, though he's more interested in destroying them than appreciating the architecture.
Emma laughed, charmed by the image of this tall, broad-shouldered man carefully constructing snow forts for his dog. That's adorable,
It's embarrassing is what it is.
Zach said, though he was smiling.
My neighbors think I'm crazy, but there's something about working with snow. It's architectural but temporary. You know it's going to melt, so you just enjoy the process.
I get that, Emma said. It's like making sand castles at the beach, knowing the tide will wash them away.
Exactly.
Zach said, his eyes lighting up.
You understand.
His enthusiasm was so genuine and so unguarded that Emma's heart melted a little. When was the last time she'd met someone who got excited about things like snow forts and typewriters? Someone who didn't pretend to be cooler or more sophisticated than they actually were?
Zach. The coffee shop had grown busier around them, weekend patrons filling nearly every table. Zach barely noticed, his attention entirely focused on the woman across from him with the warm laugh and the thoughtful eyes. So, Emma, the typewriter collector who works at the library, Zach said, leaning forward slightly. What kind of librarian are you? Let me guess. Children's section? Emma shook her head.
Close. Young adult. I coordinate teen reading programs and book clubs. It's chaotic and underfunded, but I love it.
That sounds perfect for you, Zach said, then looked embarrassed. I mean, not that I know what would be perfect for you since we just met, but you seem like someone who would be good with teenagers, patient and understanding, but not trying too hard to be cool.
That's exactly what it takes,
Emma said, surprised by his insight.
Teens can spot inauthenticity from a mile away. The key is to just be genuinely interested in what they are, without too much judgment.
What are they reading these days? Zach asked.
Fantasy is huge right now,
Emma said, warming to the topic.
especially anything with complex magic systems. But the biggest trend I've noticed is that they're reading across genres more than we did. They'll go from science fiction to romance to literary fiction without missing a beat.
That's encouraging, Zach said. When I was their age, I pretty much stuck to sci-fi and fantasy. It wasn't until college that I branched out.
What do you read now?
Emma asked, genuinely curious. Still, a lot of science fiction and fantasy, Zach admitted with a grin. But also classics, literary fiction, the occasional mystery. Right now I'm on a magical realism kick, hence The Ocean at the End of the Lane.
Have you read The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón? It's a love story tangled up with books and mystery, and there's a quiet kind of magic hidden between its pages. I always think it's perfect for hopeless romantics who don't want to admit they're hopeless romantics.
It's on my list, but I have this thing where I have to reread The Ocean at the End of the Lane at least once a year, usually in the fall. It's become a tradition.
I get that,
Emma said.
I reread Pride and Prejudice every January. It's like checking in with old friends.
Yes, Zach said. The conversation flowed easily after that, winding through books they loved and hated, the merits of physical books versus e-books, and their shared love of libraries. I spent so much time at the public library as a kid, Zach said, a nostalgic smile playing at his lips. My parents both worked long hours, so my sister and I would go to the library after school. The librarians knew us by name and kept books aside they thought we'd like,
That's why I decided to become a librarian.
Emma admitted.
I had a similar experience. The library was my safe place, and Mrs. Patterson, the children's librarian, always made me feel like my opinions about books mattered, even when I was 8.
Do you ever think about how those small kindnesses shape us? Zach asked thoughtfully. Like, I wonder if Mrs. Patterson has any idea that she influenced your entire career path.
I actually went back and told her when I got my first library job. She cried, said it was the greatest compliment she could receive, to know she'd helped create another librarian.
That's beautiful, Zach said softly. Their eyes met across the table, and Zach's heart flared to new life. There was something about the way Emma paid attention as he talked that made him feel seen in a way he hadn't in a long time. The server appeared at their table again, this time with a plate of cookies.
On the house.
She said with a knowing smile.
You two have been here a while.
Emma glanced at her watch, surprised.
Oh, wow, I had no idea it was so late.
Time flies, Zach said, equally surprised. Thank you, he added to the server, who nodded and moved away.
These look amazing.
Emma said, eyeing the cookies, chocolate chip with what appeared to be sea salt on top. Please help yourself, Zach said, pushing the plate toward her. Emma took a cookie and bit into it.
Oh my goodness.
She moaned, closing her eyes.
That is unfairly good.
When she opened her eyes, Zach watched her with an expression that made her cheeks warm.
Sorry.
She said, instantly self-conscious.
I get a little excited about baked goods.
Don't apologize, Zach said, his voice slightly rough. He cleared his throat. It's nice to see someone enjoy things so openly. Most people try to play it cool. Emma smiled, relief evident.
Life's too short not to get excited about cookies.
A philosophy I can get behind, Zach said, taking a cookie for himself. After trying it, he nodded appreciatively. You're right, that is unfairly good.
Emma. As they shared the cookies, a comfortable silence fell between them. Emma studied Zach's face, the small crinkles around his eyes that suggested he smiled often, the way his hair curled slightly at his temples, the focused way he broke his cookie into precise pieces before eating it. Can I ask you something? Emma said suddenly. Zach looked up, his expression open.
Of course.
What would you have done if I hadn't come back to your table? After Dylan left, I mean. Zach considered the question, his brow furrowing slightly.
Honestly, I probably would have finished my coffee, gone home, and spent the rest of the day thinking about the interesting woman who'd mistaken me for someone else, and wondering what if.
You wouldn't have approached me?
I wanted to,
Zach admitted.
when I saw how uncomfortable you looked with him, but
He trailed off, shrugging.
I'd already crossed one line by letting you think I was someone else. I didn't want to make things worse.
Emma nodded, understanding. I'm glad I came over,
Me too.
Zach said softly. Another silence, more charged this time. Emma became acutely aware of how close their hands were on the table, nearly touching.
So what happens now?
Zach asked, echoing her earlier question. Emma took a deep breath. Well, normally after a surprisingly good coffee date, I'd suggest doing it again sometime.
Is that what this was?
Zach asked, a hopeful note in his voice.
A date?
I don't know what else to call it, Emma said with a small laugh. We've been talking for over 2 hours. You bought me coffee, and we've shared our deepest thoughts on books and baked goods. Sounds like a date to me.
The best date I have had in years.
Zach said, his eyes never leaving hers.
Even if it started under false pretenses.
Same, Emma admitted, which is either a sad commentary on our respective dating lives or a testament to whatever this is. She gestured between them.
I'm going with the latter.
Zach said firmly. Me too, Emma agreed. She took another breath, gathering her courage. So, would you like to do this again? Intentionally this time. Zach's face broke into a smile that made her heart skip.
I would love that.
Great, Emma said, returning his smile. It's a date. A real one, with no mistaken identities.
Though I am going to miss the element of surprise.
Zach teased.
It's not every day a beautiful woman sits down at my table and starts telling me about her fear of geese.
Emma laughed, feeling light and happy again. I'm sure I can find other embarrassing facts to share. I have a lifetime supply.
I look forward to hearing all of them.
Zach promised. The coffee shop had grown busier around them, the weekend lunch crowd filling nearly every table. We should probably free up this table, she said reluctantly. I think it will keep getting busier for a while.
Probably.
Zach agreed, though he made no move to leave.
But I'm not quite ready to say goodbye yet.
Emma's heart fluttered. Me neither,
There's a park across the street.
Zach suggested.
We could take a walk. If you're not busy, that is.
I'd like that. My only plans for today involved either celebrating or commiserating after my dating app encounter. And since neither of those seems appropriate now,
What does seem appropriate?
Zach asked, a glint in his eye. Emma pretended to consider this, continuing a conversation that I'm very much enjoying, with a man who makes excellent coffee recommendations and has excellent taste in books.
That sounds perfect.
Zach said, standing and offering his hand to help her up. Emma took it, feeling a spark at the contact. His hand was warm and solid around hers, and she was reluctant to let go. As they gathered their things and prepared to leave, Emma caught sight of her reflection in the coffee shop window. She looked different somehow, brighter, more alive. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes sparkling. She looked like someone who had just stumbled into something unexpected and wonderful.
Ready?
Zach asked, standing beside her. Emma nodded, smiling up at him. Ready. And as they walked out of Brood Awakening together, Emma had to admit, even if only to herself, that sometimes the best things in life happened by accident. Sometimes you sat at the wrong table, talked to the wrong person, and found exactly what you didn't know you were looking for. Later that evening, as Emma recounted the day's events to Liv, her roommate shook her head in amazement.
Only you, Em. Only you could go on a dating app, match with the wrong person in real life, and potentially find your soulmate through a case of mistaken identity.
Whoa, let's not get ahead of ourselves, Emma said, though a small thrill ran through her at the word soulmate. It's just coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Liv hummed skeptically.
Just coffee with a hot guy who reads the same books as you, makes dog accessories, and didn't run screaming when you told him about your weird goose phobia.
When you put it that way, it does sound promising, Emma admitted. As she was getting ready for bed, her phone pinged with a notification from the dating app. She almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of her. It was a message from Dylan.
You're missing out. Your loss.
Emma stared at the screen, torn between laughter and annoyance. After a moment's consideration, she tapped the unmatch button, then went a step further and deleted the app entirely. As she set her phone on her nightstand, a weight lifted from her shoulders. No more swiping, no more crafting the perfect profile, no more awkward first dates with men who looked nothing like their photos. Tomorrow, she would meet Zach for coffee. Again. But this time, it would be because they had chosen each other, not because an algorithm had matched them, or because of a mistaken identity. Her phone buzzed with a text. It was from Zach.
Just wanted to say again what a great time I had today. Looking forward to tomorrow. P.S. Fitz says hi.
Attached was a photo of his dog, head tilted quizzically at the camera, wearing a different bandana, this one decorated with tiny books. Emma smiled as she typed back. Today was unexpected in the best way possible. Can't wait for tomorrow. Tell Fitz his bandana game is strong. As she drifted off to sleep, Emma thought about coincidences and mistakes that turned out to be exactly what you needed, about red flannel shirts and dog-eared books and connections that formed when you least expected them. Sometimes the wrong table was exactly the right place to be. Author's note. If you're wondering why Emma asked Zach on another date instead of the more traditional man asking woman that's typical in a clean, cozy romance, it's because Zach recognized the difficult situation Emma had been placed in. While he so badly wanted to ask her out, he restrained the first real spark of joy he'd felt in years, choosing instead to make Emma feel safe and let her set the pace. The moment she asked if he wanted to meet again, he again shouldered the responsibility of looking out for her best interests and spoiling her. I like to think she spoils him just as much. We might need a follow-up in the future with these two. Thank you for listening to Coffee Cupid and a Case of Mistaken Identity by Lainey Evans. This short story is exclusively found here on my YouTube channel. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to be notified when these exclusives and my full-length audiobooks become available. Follow my social media pages to get notified when a new book is available. You can also sign up for my newsletter to get exclusive first peeks at the stories or covers. All links are below in the description. Thank you for your support.